So, the art of hockey fighting. Now, I know you were involved in lacrosse too. So, before we get into the actual boxing part, I want to know how could you compare the difference between fighting on the ice and fighting in lacrosse? Now, obviously, this is the ice factor, but as far as maybe just the technique, as far as like grabbing the person, or you don't have to get into too much details, but what would be the biggest difference as far as fighting on the ice as the fighting in lacrosse on the field?
Yeah, so this is, I would say, probably one of the most commonly, one of my most commonly asked questions. I think I get it every time because a lot of people are curious, especially the Americans, because they don't see as much box lacrosse down here.
Oh, yeah, because in the States they don't fight in the
they
States,
play
right?
field lacrosse in the States, and there's no fighting. So box lacrosse is starting to grow into the United States, but it's mostly a predominantly Canadian sport. But yeah, so like the biggest differences that I've kind of figured out over the years is like on the ice, there's the dynamic of you're essentially kind of holding each other up and kind of working with each other, even though you're fighting, you're still kind of balancing off of each other. So you're able to actually grapple, I think, a little bit easier and a little bit more because there's like the balance factor where, whereas in lacrosse, grappling seems to be a little bit harder because guys are so much stronger on their feet.
Yes.
If you try and tie a guy's arm up, it's generally a lot easier for them to just rip their arm out of the grab. So lacrosse is more of usually a stand back, string out, shootout kind of fight. Whereas you can definitely do a lot more and be a little bit more technical in a hockey fight just because of the dynamic of being on the ice and stuff like that. But I find lacrosse fights, obviously there's going to be a little bit harder punches coming at you. I think that the lacrosse fight obviously is a little bit more intimidating just because, it's like a street fight. So it's the punch a lot harder. If you get rocked in a lacrosse fight, you don't just slip and fall like you do in hockey. Like if you get hit with a big punch in hockey, you just fall and the fight's over. Whereas in lacrosse, your head might go down, but the fight's kind of still going. So, it's definitely a little bit crazier, I think, in lacrosse, but just being a smaller sport, generally don't run into as big guys. And then there's like a fewer amount of guys to select from. So I think like the overall caliber of hockey fighters is greater. You'll get a better hockey fighter, a higher caliber hockey fighter, but definitely, I think the lacrosse fights can be a little bit more intimidating at times, just because of the factor of being on your feet and not really being able to tie a guy up as well. So
interesting, very interesting.